Do you know what's louder than words? Silence. In a world that never stops talking, the boldest thing you can do is zip your mouth. Ladies and gentlemen, we are constantly bombarded by noise, opinions, criticisms, endless chatter. But silence, that's where the real power lies. I've learned that you don't always need to react. You don't always need to prove yourself. Sometimes power doesn't come from raising your voice. It comes from holding it back. Silence is not weakness. It's a strategy, it's class, it's control, and above all, it's peace. So today, I'm going to show you how zipping your mouth can actually unlock your voice, the one that truly matters. There's a common misconception that silence is weakness, that staying quiet means you've lost, that you're afraid, or that you don't have anything to say. But real strength often comes from knowing when asterisk, not asterisk, to speak. It takes incredible courage to hold your tongue when every fiber of your being wants to defend, attack, or explain. Choosing silence doesn't mean you're surrendering, it means you're rising above the noise. Silence gives you control. It allows you to assess a situation, protect your energy, and respond, if necessary, with thoughtfulness, not emotion. When you don't rush to speak, you don't give away your power. You keep people guessing, you stay in control of your narrative. Think of the most powerful people you've seen in a room. They're rarely the loudest. They speak with purpose, not to fill space. Their silence commands attention because it's intentional. That's not weakness, that's dominance through restraint. Silence is also a boundary. When you don't respond to disrespect, gossip, or chaos, you're silently saying, "This isn't worth my time." And that's a message louder than words could ever be. You're saying, "I choose peace over drama," and there is real power in that. Sometimes the best clapback is no clapback. The loudest statement is the one you don't make. Let others exhaust their energy trying to provoke you while you stay still, focused, and unbothered. So the next time you're tempted to react, defend, or explain, pause. Remember that silence isn't you backing down. It's you standing taller, because true power doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just asterisk stays quiet asterisk, and that changes everything. In a world where everyone is rushing to speak, the one who pauses to listen gains the real advantage. When you choose silence, you create space, not just for others to express themselves, but for you to truly observe what's happening around you. You begin to notice the subtle details, the body language, the tone behind the words, the energy in the room. These are things you miss when you're too focused on being heard. Silence sharpens your awareness. It teaches you patience and presence. When you're not busy forming a response in your mind, you're free to absorb information fully. That's when the learning begins, not just intellectually, but emotionally and intuitively. You start to recognize patterns, understand motives, and sense things beyond the obvious. You become more strategic, more empathetic, and much harder to manipulate. It also allows you to reflect. In silence, your mind processes ideas differently. You give yourself the gift of introspection, of understanding your own reactions, your own biases. That kind of self-awareness can't be developed in constant noise. Think of silence as a tool, not an absence, but a presence. A conscious decision to pay attention. When you're quiet, people reveal themselves. You learn who they really are, what they value, and how they think, and that knowledge, it's powerful. While others are caught in the rush to speak first, be the one who listens best. It's not about being passive, it's about being prepared. Observation is a skill, and silence is its foundation. Every moment you choose to listen instead of talk is a moment where you grow smarter, wiser, and more in control. Let others speak to be noticed. You stay silent to understand, and that will always set you apart. There's something undeniably powerful about a person who doesn't feel the need to explain everything. In a world where oversharing is the norm and everyone wants to be seen, the one who chooses silence instantly stands out. There's a quiet confidence in holding back, in not revealing every thought, opinion, or feeling. That restraint creates an air of mystery, and mystery is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to what they can't fully figure out. When you don't constantly talk about your plans, your past, or your pain, you leave room for curiosity. That curiosity becomes fascination. The less you reveal, the more others want to know. It's not about playing games. It's about preserving your energy and only sharing what truly matters when it matters. You don't need to put your entire life on display to be impactful. In fact, the more you speak only when you have something meaningful to say, the more weight your words carry. People begin to listen more closely because you've trained them to value your voice. You've made silence your statement. This kind of magnetism isn't about being distant or cold. It's about being intentional. You let your presence, your focus, and your calm do the talking. You become someone people watch closely, not because you're loud, but because you're grounded. Your mystery isn't emptiness, it's depth. The truth is, people chase what they don't fully understand. So when you stop over-explaining and start trusting your silence, you become more powerful, more intriguing, and more unforgettable. Silence, when used with purpose, doesn't just protect your peace, it enhances your presence, and in that quiet you become irresistible. In moments of conflict, the instinct is to react, to defend, to raise your voice and make your point heard. But often, the most powerful thing you can do is remain silent, not because you don't have something to say, but because you've chosen not to engage in chaos. Silence in the heat of confrontation is not avoidance, it's discipline. When emotions are high, words can become weapons. People say things they don't mean just to win, to hurt, or to feel powerful. But reacting in anger rarely leads to resolution. It only fuels the fire. Choosing silence in that moment isn't weakness, it's control. It's knowing that not every accusation deserves a response, and not every argument needs your energy. Silence protects your dignity. When you remain calm, you maintain your position of strength. The other person may shout, insult, or provoke, but your stillness sends a message. You won't pull me into your storm. That's power. That's grace under pressure. It also gives you time to think, to process, and to decide if the conversation is even worth continuing. Some battles don't deserve your voice. Some people don't deserve your explanation. Silence lets them reveal more about themselves while you stay rooted in your peace. Eventually, silence becomes louder than words. It makes others uncomfortable, not because you're weak, but because your refusal to engage takes away their control. You rob conflict of its fuel. So the next time you're pulled into tension, try this. Take a breath, stay quiet, and watch how your silence disarms the situation. It's not about winning the argument, it's about winning your peace. And sometimes the most powerful message you can send is the one you never say out loud. In a world filled with constant distractions, silence is a rare and powerful sanctuary. It's in silence that your mind has room to breathe, to think clearly, and to focus without interruption. When you're surrounded by noise, whether it's external chaos or internal chatter, your thoughts become fragmented. You're reacting, not reflecting. But when you allow silence in, everything begins to align. Silence sharpens your attention. Without the pressure to respond, explain, or multitask, your brain can channel its energy into what really matters. You become more productive, more strategic, and more creative. Ideas surface that would have been drowned out by noise. You start to notice the things that truly require your attention, and more importantly, the things that don't. Mental clarity isn't found in the noise, it's found in the stillness. In silence, you gain perspective. You can sort through emotions, untangle confusion, and prioritize what needs action versus what needs letting go. This is where breakthroughs happen, not when you're speaking or scrolling, but when you're sitting in silence, fully present. It's also a way to recharge. Just like your body needs rest, so does your mind. Silence is a mental detox. It quiets the chaos and brings you back to center. It's not emptiness. It's a reset. You don't need hours of meditation or a retreat in the mountains. Just moments of intentional silence throughout your day can make a dramatic difference. Step away from the noise, close the tabs, put the phone down, and just be still. In those quiet moments, you'll find what truly matters. Focus sharpens, stress fades, decisions become clearer, and suddenly, silence isn't just a break from the world. It's your most powerful tool to master it. Everywhere you look, people are speaking louder, posting more, reacting faster. The world feels like a competition of voices. Who can be the boldest, the quickest, the most visible? But in the middle of all that noise, silence becomes a rare and commanding force. It's the calm in the chaos, the pause that demands attention without saying a word. When you choose silence, you step out of the reactive cycle. You're no longer trying to prove, defend, or be seen constantly. That choice gives you power because it shows you don't need validation. You're not shaken by noise. You're anchored in your own presence. People notice that. They respect it. because the one who remains grounded while others scramble to be heard carries undeniable authority. Silence gives you control over how and when you engage. You don't waste your voice on things that don't deserve it. You speak with intention, not urgency, and that makes what you do say matter more. In a world desperate for attention, being selective with your words becomes your superpower. It also makes people listen differently. When someone who is often silent chooses to speak, people lean in. There's gravity in their voice because it's not used carelessly. That's the kind of impact silence creates, not through volume, but through value. You don't need to broadcast everything to have influence. Sometimes the strongest position is the quiet one. Let the world spin, let the noise rise. You remain still, aware, in control. That's not silence as absence. That's silence as presence, as power. When you stop competing with the noise and start honoring your stillness, you don't just find peace, you find influence. And in this noisy world, that's the kind of power that changes everything.